Hi guys, Prem here. How are you today? So this is my video cast where I'm intending to have some technical discussion in a conversational style with some of my colleagues who are well versed in their subjects. So it's a good learning experience to me as well as I hope for you too. So let's start then. Thank you. Okay, so I want to introduce you to my colleagues, Krishna and Murugan.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay, so both of them are working with me in open banking and API space. Both of them are experts in their fields and working at architect and designer capacity. So welcome to you, both of you, and thanks for the time.
Thanks for it.
Okay, so the subject today is open banking. So let me start. So Krishna, you have been working in open banking for quite some time now,
Yes.
right? So for the purpose of the viewers, just simplify open banking. Like, what is open banking and why open banking, please?
Okay. Thanks for this meeting. Okay. So open banking, if you see, it's just a financial term, okay, which enables any third parties, okay, to build their applications around a financial institution. Okay. Third party here, why are we referring is customer and a bank are the main two parties. Okay. Apart from that, there is another party which is going to build the applications, okay, and APIs on top of that. Okay. And it means they are going to build open APIs where the banks or financial institution they are going to expose their capabilities to the outside world as APIs. So which will enable which will make the customer to come out of the closed banking thing, to come out of their thing and can approach any of the fintechs. Okay. So this will increase the market of the fintechs to serve the customers.
Okay. So who are the fintechs? Like fintechs who gives like apps? Is it apps or fintechs or any kind of organizations who wants to create some kind of value out of this data? Like,
yeah. So it's not only apps. Okay. Fintechs, as you mentioned correctly, fintechs are the organizations, okay, who are going to serve the customers benefit from the banking data. Okay, from the rather than banking data, than financial data. Okay. So they are going to gather some financial data from these banks and perform some perform something on top of that, and which is going to benefit the customers. Okay, some classical example is, okay, so nowadays if there are some of the companies, okay, so who will go through the who want to publish their or advertise their thing. So they will go through a particular customer's transaction, and then they will understand their spending patterns, and then they will term, okay, so you are spending for a particular supplier this amount, but we are having some other supplier who can give you better deals. So like
right.
this will give the benefit to the customer, to the particular institution, and then other things. Okay?
Something like moneysupermarket.com and
yeah.
compare the markets and all that stuff. Okay. So Murugan, so you have been working with some cross banking insights. So I know you have done a great job there. So what's your study on open banking? How the banks are embracing it? What is the trend looking like?
Thanks, man. Yeah, so the good point is that we are talking about open banking, right? So as Krishna explained, it has created a lot of new opportunities for the new fintechs to grow. At the same time, when you asked about the banks, so the banks are building societies who are currently offering their services to the customers. So it's a very challenging for them to compete with the new fintech companies. So it's definitely a pressure on the banks to keep up their services from the customers, and also it improvises the banks to meet the standards where the fintechs are going across the boundaries. So when we see a lot of other major banks in UK and who have implemented open banking, it's not that they're enabling their products or APIs to the external world. They are also providers of they are also the third-party providers as a open banking. So they also act as a third-party providers, and they also consume the products from the different banks as well. So they exchange the banking information across their counterparts. So if I am owning a bank and I am exposing my customer information as an open banking API, and I approach to another bank as well, so that I get the same customer information on the other banks. So now it is the opportunity for the customer or choice for the customer to go with the banks or fintechs, so they get more services offered. And going forward, fintechs are coming up with a lot of new functionalities which bank couldn't offer at this point in time. For example, the amount of information that bank uses on the customer to search and do some analytics on that. For example, if you want to lend the money, so the time taken for most of the banks or building societies is more, whereas when we have the open banking in place, they might have a very short duration of application processing time and everything. At the end of the day, it goes to the bank for the fulfillment of the decision in principle or everything, but the process is making more lesser here. The processing time is very less.
It's becoming easy.
It's becoming easy. So that is the main advantage. So the open banking is to create more opportunities, and it doesn't want to restrict with the banks and building societies. So it wants to extend the opportunity, extend the functionalities to other providers.
Yeah, you're right. Like it's making the whole industry level playing field.
Level playing, exactly.
Right. So that's right. Level playing field. So it is competition, encouraging the competition.
One of the objectives is to increase the competitive and give better services to the customer rather than particularly only one entity servicing. Now it's increase the competitiveness, and then customer is having option to choose as you rightly mentioned. And in long term, it's going to have a lot of ROI also later some period.
Okay. So some of the in some of the projects I work, a lot of clients are asking, is open banking is a costly affair in order to build and all that. So the investment, it's an investment which over the period of time the returns will be huge, right? So that's how the banks are started looking at it, and all the like Murugan was telling me before that all the banks as part of his Insight program in their focus 2020 is digitalization, right? Murugan, do you want to talk about digitalization? How banks are looking at digitalization and all that?
Yeah, so when we say digitalization, so there are multiple aspects to it. What do we mean by digitalization of a bank, right? It's not just the API, it's not just the apps building it. It's an ecosystem basically. Like you have a platform, so you need to enable all the digital way of exposing your services to the customers.
Channels
basically. So digital is a channel, right? So app is one of the channel where you come and access your bank information, the service that you provide to a customer, and then this open banking APIs where you create one single platform where digital is playing key role to connect with the different APIs. So as part of the open banking, this APIfication has become very important feature to enable this open banking, right? So as part of that open banking standards, so a lot of banks who have implemented the open banking, so they have implemented the APIs as well, which means that they need to expose their banking data to a third party in a proper API functions. So in that way, digital is playing a key role in this one. So one of the things like API, app development, and also the platform for UI functionalities what the customer used to see. So that is a kind of a key thing from the open banking perspective.
So API plays a major role, right?
Definitely, definitely plays a major role. It's not only to third parties, it's the experience that customer is going to get, not only app, conversational way experience or anything. Chatbots and everything. So this API is going to play a major role there. So now with this feature, it is going to increase the value. Companies are going to add some values to the customers. And then many things is apart digital, as you mentioned. Another thing is the automated. So due to this APIs, many things will be automated. Customer don't. So when the two different entities are going to integrate, they don't need to wait for a manual processing or batch processing and all. So these APIs at the real time, they are going to share the information. So which will enable the entities to do the automations.
So I don't need to give my bank statements for applying a mortgage because the open banking automatically gives the data to them, right?
So customer don't need to print this transactions, last 6 months transaction, give to the bank, give to the building societies where they will process and approve the loans. Rather than that, it's the entity which want to provide the loan, they can directly fetch the customer transaction based on authorization and can provide it.
So I can say like a middleware is going to replace middleman. Isn't it? Okay. Krishna, do you want to quickly talk about the architecture of an open banking? I know it's a big subject.
Yeah.
It's going to take long time. So, but can you quickly talk about, what are the bigger components going to be involved? Obviously, you have a banking software. You can't replace it.
Let us see the contextual architecture. So I'm not going to in depth. At a very basic level, I'm going to tell. Okay. So these are the key players, the key entities there. One first is the TPP application, where I mentioned that any application that's want to use the customer data. Okay, so that is a third-party provider application. And then this is the important thing, which is the open banking implementation directory. What we will term is, so this is a service provided by an entity called OBI, which is being formed by us in UK top 9 banks, which is CMA 9 banks. They have framed an entity, and then that is providing a directory services. Okay. So there are two things it's providing. One is it is providing some standards, which is in the form of APIs, where standard is what is the name of API and what should be its request response. It's providing some standard specification. And next, that is exposing some APIs, some directory services, which will enable you to validate many other items. And so that is called OBE directory, which is your second box here. And this is what I mentioned is ASPSP API. In simple terms, it is the bank's API. Any bank API it is there, and then under that it is having all your legacy systems functionalities. So you can have any number of legacy systems. So how very high level how it is happening is entire ecosystem operating in the architecture is there are particular any third parties they have to register themselves in this open banking directory, and the banks also need to register themselves in the open banking directory. So the TPP application which want to access the services, it can be any number of APIs. We can now, for the simplification, I have provided one. It can have any number of things. So a single application can access multiple ASPs API like that. So once registered, it will invoke that API. So even though it is mentioned as open API, it is not open. It is completely secured in the manner only the authorized TPP application by this open banking directory only can access this.
Okay.
So the request comes, it's getting validated.
So if I want to become a TPP, I need to approach open banking to register myself or my company as a TPP, isn't
my
it?
application you need to register.
Right.
You can have n number of applications. So all the applications you need to register there. You need to get the certificates and all, which is a detailed thing. So you need to register yourself, identifying yourself as a valid entity. Internally, this OB, when you register yourself, they will again check with the UK's Financial Conduct Authority about whether you are a valid person to do this type of business. If you approach, so they will do it and then only they will authorize.
Okay.
So based on the authorization only, we are going to allow them to access our legacy systems and provide that data as a API to them. Okay. So at the same time, as I mentioned, this can connect to multiple bank APIs and then can provide a single stop shop for a customer.
Right. So this is how the ecosystem is built, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Krishna. Okay. So Krishna, we spoke about the legacy system, right? So in your architecture, legacy system is in the very end of that food chain, I might say, right? So that's big in nature. Yes. Because the banks have put in so many years of work and so many billions of pounds invested in bringing up the legacy system, and it's working for them because it's their bread and butter and it's working for them. So what do you think, what we think as a challenges in terms of banks facing in modernization, the legacy, and this is legacy system stopping them in their open banking journey, or is it stopping them putting hurdles in their digitalization journey? So what is the thought process here?
Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so the problems with the legacy system is, for your question, whether it is stopping for open banking implementation, it is not stopping, but it is slowing down the process definitely. Okay, because how these legacy systems, which is built on, most of the things are built on monolithic architecture. Okay, and tightly coupled systems and process lot of heavy burden process to change. Okay, even a small change can take so much time, and the burden of the process, which will make the change really as it's a slow pace thing. So that is really, rather than stopping, it is slowing down the process. Okay, so how to overcome this. Okay. So where we are building these APIs, and then where how we are treating this legacy system as just a source of data rather than making any changes in that. How the banks are now treating is, okay, I want to keep it as just as a source of data, and I am going to build all my business functionalities, capabilities, and everything on top of that, and as a APIs to expose that. Rather than that, I am not going to change anything in the particular legacy system unless it is a specific business need.
Are they afraid to touch the legacy system? Are they? It's a kind of a. Are they not very forthcoming in changing and re-engineering their legacy system, going into digitalization of their systems and all that?
That really depends on the appetite of the particular institution. Okay, so because some institution, when they want to move for open banking and other initiatives, they want to modernize their legacy platforms also. Okay, which is good initiative, but whether all banks or everybody is having that appetite to do it, and then they have necessary funding to do that, it's a question. So one of the approaches these institutions are following is, they want to keep their legacy system as it is, build everything on top of that, and gradually decommissioning them at some point.
So they're changing the optics.
Optics, yes.
But keeping that core
as a base.
As a base.
Yes. So, and then try to avoid as much as changes in that. Unless there is any business.
But Murugan, a lot of banks are changing now, right? There's an intention to change, an intent to. So what do you think in the industry how it's going?
Yeah, so as I said, like the legacy systems. So the good point that you made is like, are they afraid? The good question. Yes, little bit of afraidness is there because they don't want to re-engineer everything from the scratch, right? So whatever the possibilities that they can do, whatever the features that they enable. For example, as Krishna mentioned about the monolithic architecture, so they're breaking down that into a microservices architecture and going forward. The process that he mentioned about a lot of manual process or time-taking process. So they are moving towards agile, DevOps, and all those things, which makes them to move time and moving time to market at a very faster pace, right? So that is the way that they are approaching the changes in their existing architecture. They cannot completely come out of the legacy and then build a brand new or from the scratch, because there's no point in doing that. They're not going to re-engineer everything at the same time, which is not going to give more value to them, and the investment is going to be very huge in that area. So if you see an opportunity where to change, you just pick that area and then you change. I think that is the approach that they are taking so far. So for example, this open banking came into place, so not APIs were very much matured now. So earlier days, before open banking introduced this concept, not many banks or institutions had the APIs. So now this APIfication has become more common nowadays, and DevOps is also becoming more common, and microservices are now evolving more common. So that is how I see the trend in the digitalization of, moving the application from.
And I think all the fintechs also putting pressure on the banks.
Exactly. Definitely.
Right, they're taking their market share.
Because they don't have this burden of legacy systems, and they can come up quickly their thing. Okay, even if you take some of the any challenger banks, because they don't have this. Because they started onboarding customers maybe 3 or 4 years or 2 or 3 years before, but these other major banks, they are having the customer data for past 20-30 years, which is been written on mainframe and COBOL, and then it's not possible for them to migrate. But these new challenger banks, they onboarded the customer recently, so everything is on the new systems and new frameworks. So they're posing a challenge to this, because they can bring up their systems quickly.
Okay, good guys. So it's a good forum. I really enjoyed the conversation. So though it's an ocean subject, but I just wanted to see how the reaction is. I just want to learn from your experience and do that. So change is the only permanent thing. I think it's change for good is happening in the industry. So hopefully everything is good. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Bye.